Words matter. They're important, not just for the sake of clear communications, but to showcase the specific skill set one has in an effort to attract a suitable client. Suitability. Yes, you're hearing this again. If you are a regular listener to Convo by Design, you know what I'm talking about. If not, first, hopefully you will be a regular listener in the future. And second, this idea of suitability in all endeavors is more important now than ever before. Suitability means vibing and open to new ideas through a mutual trust. A mutual trust allows someone to communicate with another without having to mask every thought, concept, and idea under the veil of quote-unquote correctness in whatever form that may take. No, we are not going to be talking about politics or, or anything that might make anyone uncomfortable. Today, anyway. But today, you are going to hear my conversation with Paulina Hospod of AHA Interiors about design versus renovation and the subtle details. It's nuanced. Sometimes subtle details make all the difference between the overused, overplayed looks you can find while doom scrolling on the socials. Design should make us happy, not complacent. It's not about the mundane, it's about the extraordinary and the special. And we're going to explore that idea and others with Paulina, and you're going to hear all of it right after this. I am incredibly proud of my partnership with Thermosol, presenting sponsor of Convo by Design. They have been presenting sponsors of Convo by Design going on 6 years now. And there is a certain amount of pride that comes with saying that the show is presented by the company that is the best in the world at what they do. Thermosol engineers the most exceptional smart shower products and steam shower systems worldwide for a few reasons. They were the first company to design and patent the technology here in the United States dating back to 1958. Thermosol, a US-based manufacturer in Round Rock, Texas, employs an engineering team that designs, tests, and continuously refines the product. Their quality control team tests every single steam generator before it departs the factory. Who else does that? Nobody that I know of. And I have had the pleasure of working with some world-class designers and architects who tell me, and you know this, that the idea of luxury has changed, especially when clients want a spa-like bathroom. Steam is mandatory, or it's just not considered a luxury. And if you want to add steam, you have one true option. It's Thermosol. And now, Thermosol, the industry leader in steam bath equipment and technology since 1958, is enhancing its already stellar family of products with new indoor and outdoor luxury saunas, available in 3 design configurations: outdoor barrel, outdoor canopy barrel, and indoor. Each sauna is handcrafted from clear Western red cedar or Nordic spruce, inspired by the brilliance of Northern European sauna technology and design. It makes you ask, without steam, is a luxury bath really a luxury bath? I don't know. Most clients would say they want it, and most designers want to make their clients happy. I think all designers want to make their clients happy. And if you want your clients to be happy, thermosol.com and at Thermosol on the socials. You're based in New York.
New York City, correct.
Where's home?
Home is in Queens, so one of the 5 boroughs in New York City, and that's where I live. And our shop is also in Queens, but most of our jobs are in Brooklyn and Manhattan.
Where are you from?
I'm Polish.
You're Polish. When did you come to the U.S.?
In 1998, so I was 16 years old. I went to high school when I came here.
What was that like, coming from Poland and going to school in New York City?
It wasn't the greatest, but I think out of all of the cities that I ended up in, New York City was probably the best because of the variety of people that are coming from. You know, it's a huge immigration here. And I think that helped a lot because I wasn't the only Polish person in high school. I wasn't the only immigrant in high school, which was great. But the hard part was that I was 16 years old. I was leaving my friends in Poland, first boyfriends, and that wasn't fun.
No, I would imagine that's fairly traumatic. So how did you wind up in the design industry?
I was actually trying to think about, but I always like to do something artistic. I had, Barbie dolls. I had a house that my grandma would send us from US to Poland. I've had probably the best toys. And I would, my mom would tell me that I would always rearrange the dollhouse. My little sister, she's 5 years old, 5 years younger than me. She wouldn't be allowed to play with them. I also rearranged my furniture, what I mean? So like when I would move my, coffee table on my desk and stuff. So I think it was always an artistic part. I built stuff out of a cardboard. And then one day, I think this was before we were leaving, maybe a year before we knew we were going to leave. My parents had a beautiful home. My dad actually built it. This lady came to the house and she had a set of, now I know those were blueprints, but, very technical drawings that I didn't know what they are. So my parents were designing like a outdoor fireplace. And I think that's where I started to become interested of what that lady actually did. And she was a woman too, which was pretty exciting. And she was later I find out she was obviously an architect. So that's how I got into design, I think, more sort of specifying that I wanted to study interior design and I want to study architecture.
If I were to ask you what you consider yourself first and foremost, are you a designer? Are you a remodeler? Are you a builder? What would you call yourself? I love labels. I love titles. What would you call yourself first?
I think I call myself interior designer first because that's what
Okay.
I start. Even with my own firm, I start with clients. After the contract, I start with the design with them. The fact that we get to build it in-house, it's a bonus for me, but an interior designer at first.
And it's interesting. I asked the question because what I have a pet peeve to discuss with you, Paulina.
Please.
When I look at your website and I try to do I try to do a modicum of research on the people that I'm talking to. I want to find some things out.
Sure.
With you on the website, you told me nothing. I found out I've got no backstory. I've got no story about you. I want to know, look, and this is why I'm asking. I want to know who you are. Like if I'm a client, I can look at your work. I think your work's extraordinary. It really is. And I want to get into it too, because some of the things that you do, I just absolutely love. But I also feel like, and maybe I want your take on this, because maybe it's like, you know what? I don't need to put myself out there and tell my story. My clients want me to come in and do the job. I do it for them. But I also feel like to be a creative today, to have a web presence, to have social media, it's almost like you have to play the part. You have to play the role. You have to define your character. Is that a thing, or do you figure, you know what, I'll just let the work speak for itself?
No, I do agree. And actually, I don't know if you looked at our new website. It was the old website because we recently last year rebranded and relaunched our new website. I think it was in December. So you might have still looked at the old website. And that was my thing, that we have zero information about myself, zero information about business partner. We didn't even have, what guys are on the, job sites. And even the girls that were doing rebranding for us, they were like, so you do the construction, or your brother-in-law does, or is he your husband? Like, who you people are? So we did change a little bit of that. And there's more bio about myself, more bio about him now. And you might have been looking at the old website, which I designed 12 years ago. I wrote by myself 12 years ago, which is
Did you really?
I did, yes.
Oh,
I mean,
wow.
in the beginning of the business, I did everything. I learned QuickBooks. I was doing our payroll. I was doing contracts. I was designing, ordering materials, just way too many things. Now it's easier, but the rebranding was a long time coming. And we finally done that last year. New website, new logo and all of that.
It's interesting too, because working primarily in the five boroughs, it's cutthroat. It is absolutely cutthroat.
Yeah.
New York City, five boroughs, New York in general, New York proper. I think, and I want your take on this. It's like, because design and architecture is so prevalent in the city, because fashion is so prevalent in the city, because everything that is new and now and next pretty much starts, it starts in LA, it starts in New York, and then it kind of works its way into the middle of the country and then outward into the rest of the world. I feel like at least things that emanate from the States. When you think about the competitive nature of the city in which you call home, how did you launch the firm? How did you get clients originally? And how do you continue to do that?
Okay, so we launched first as a cabinetry shop. So my sister was dating a guy who's now her husband, who's my business partner. He's the founder as well. He was a carpenter. And one day he said, one of the contractors that I, done some work through somebody else has a job for us and they want us to build it. So we've rented a place, we've rented machinery, we've had, we put $100 from from him, $100 from me from him to open a business bank account. And that's how he started, really basically as a cabinetry shop. He was supposed to be doing cabinets. I was supposed to be doing shop drawings, not even designing, because this was under a different architect for a contractor. So that's how our start was. And I think one time when we were doing a kitchen and I was at the job site, I was probably driving the van, he was unloading the cabinets. We've had somebody helping us already. Somebody asked us, why don't you guys do everything? Like, why aren't you like demoing that kitchen? Why aren't you installing the cabinets? Why aren't you not doing the GC? And I think that time I was like, yeah, that's right. I mean, we can do that. I worked for a contractor prior to this and I was designing for them. So I was like, yeah, I can also design. It's, we can become something else. And that's how it started on smaller projects. It was just kitchen and a bathroom. But it evolved into full scale, changed that 2 years ago that we don't even take projects from different architects or different GCs, so it's strictly design build, our own project, our own design, our own build.
And that's interesting. Okay, so no pun intended, but you kind of four-wall it. Everything, you don't rely on any outside partners for the most part, except
the ones only that need a
specify.
separate license, plumber, electrician, HVAC, those are the only ones. But we do everything in-house. I have people that install tile. I have guys that install doors. We install wood flooring. We fabricate the cabinets in our shop. We have 4,000 square feet here in Queens. That's our fabrication shop. So now we do everything in-house. And also that's why we take less projects. We'll take 4 or 5 projects that are running at the same time because we have to be involved in every single project that we do. And, we try to do them custom as well for our clients. So yes, to evolve. We evolve strictly from cabinetry shop into a full design build firm.
Do the recent changes politically, socially, especially in a city like New York, I mean, every time something political happens, it's directly SALT, for example, right? State and local taxes, everything that happens financially usually affects both coasts first. Again, LA, New York, you feel it the most because the houses are more expensive. The taxes hit harder. When there are tariffs, the costs are felt there first. What's your state of mind right now, and what is the state of business? Like, are you busy right now?
We're busy right now. Yes, we're actually signing 2 new contracts this month. And that usually tells me something about what's going to happen to us this year because January is typically, not as busy. People are just coming back from the holidays, season. So it's good. It's not, as busy as I would want it to be, but it's a typical January, if not even a little bit better. We just had the congestion tax, put in place in the city. So I think it sounded a little bit worse than what it was. I feel like it actually makes our life a little bit easier. I drove to the city a few times already, with the congestion pricing. I do, granted, we do have to pay a little bit more, but there's more parking, there's less cars on the road. You can get there faster. So I'm getting, a lot of bucket of my hour. But yeah, changes. I think every year for us, it's, the insurances are going up, materials are going up. I haven't seen anything that goes down. So I almost want to say that in the 12 years, every year, January, I predict that, Sub-Zero Wolf just send a notice that they're increasing, 6% on their appliances. Nothing new. And when it comes to political changes, a new president and all of that, I think in New York City, actually the parts that we are at, it's a lot of, Democratic more. So hopefully that won't change the view of our clients.
It's interesting. When I look at your portfolio, I see a lot of red knobs. And and when when you get that notification, and I think it's really important. This is not necessarily it's a business question for sure, but it's more than that. I'm curious, it's kind of a two-part, it's a multifaceted question. How does that make you feel when you get that notice that there's going to be another increase, this time of 6%? And what does that do to you as far as how you might think about future specification? And the third part of that is knowing how budgets are today. You're right, to your point, everything's going up. And at the same time, clients are wanting more. They don't just want the single refrigerator in the kitchen anymore. You don't want just the single kitchen in a kitchen anymore. You want the kitchen and the scullery and the butler's pantry and the outdoor kitchen that looks like the indoor kitchen. And you want the wine bar and you want the coffee bar and you want everything, right? But the costs keep going up. The budgets keep going up. I don't know. How do you manage and maintain what you do in this environment?
I try to give clients as much as I can from myself. So let's say something that doesn't have a monetary value, my input and my time, right? So if I need to give to a specific project an extra time, an extra effort that I'll design something, completely, extraordinary for, let's say, the same interior design fee, I feel like this is what I'm trying to help them, and if I have 4 projects, I can really invest a lot of my time into designing these projects. So I think that's one for that. When it comes to materials and appliances and fixtures, I think that comparable, let's say if we're talking about Sub-Zero Wolf and thing that I just got an email that they're increasing their price. Recently I looked at other appliances that are lower shelf, Bosch and all of that. Their appliances have been already that high. I feel like these American-made appliances haven't been as expensive. So right now I don't think it's really, affecting us because it's still quality work. It's still materials and finishes and appliances that are, built here actually in the US.
Take that to a broader level when you sort of evaluate the specification process is crazy. Now you're in New York, so you have access to remarkable resources. But at the same time, how do you discover new product? How do you discover new brands? How do you vet them? How do you evaluate them?
Showrooms. I go to a lot of showrooms, 200 Legs, D&D building, A&D building. I try to go there at least, every few weeks to see if they have something new. If there's a new showroom that pops it, whether it's appliances, tiles. Tiles, there's not a lot of new places that are popping, but the existing places that I go to, I always try to look for something new. Like, I really hate to be reusing something. Like, even a tile, you know what I mean? Like, I don't like to reuse a tile. Like, our entire project that we're doing, a townhouse in Brooklyn right now, I went to the showroom. I said, what are your new options right now? And let's see if I can, make those 4 bathrooms out of all of those new materials. So that's how I check it out. It's mostly going to the showrooms, mostly speaking with the reps, and a lot of emails. All these, I do open all the marketing emails from vendors that I purchase from. Like, I do that. So, and High Point Market, that's, where we went. Atlanta had a woodworking show. Last year I went to the IDS conference. There's a number, I do like to travel and go and sort of educate myself too for the clients. I do have definitely my go-tos, I can mention, because I know the quality. I've used them. I actually, I have our own home that we renovated. We have a house upstate that we renovated. Funny story is every single bathroom that we have has a different toilet, So I have a Toto toilet, we have a Kohler toilet, we have a Callista toilet, because I was just testing all of them, which one is the best. So
and which is the best?
I like Callista. Out of the wall hanging toilets, yes. Toto used to be really good, but they changed something, the way, the water goes down, that doesn't clean it as well. So I really love Callista because it also has a really nice wall plate and it has a selection of wall plates.
It's really interesting. And it's also fascinating, all the things that you have to do that change the way that you do the work you do. Gas, we're talking appliances. Let's talk gas for a minute. So LNG, can you still use natural gas on renovations, remodel, and new projects?
Yes, we can. New builds, new developments cannot use gas anymore, but existing ones you can still use gas. But although a lot of clients are turning away from gas now, so we have been introducing a lot of induction cooking as well. And also, New York City is limited because if I have a gas range in one location, I cannot move it. Like gas lines, you do not touch in New York City, multi-residential homes. So the only change that I can do in the kitchen, if I want to move that stove, has to be induction. Electric, you can run any place. Gas, you cannot.
Even enough to run an induction?
Yes.
Because that's, a lot of people realize that once you get induction, sometimes you have to go change the panel.
Of course, a panel, amperage, you have to check what that apartment is. A lot of times we cannot do that, of course.
I feel like, and it's funny because as we're recording this, the LA fires are now starting to wind down and get under control a little bit. But it's really interesting. It makes you think, you talk about insurance rates going up. If you can still get insurance rates, you talk about high rise and condo complexes. If you're in Florida, do you have any clients in Florida, like in Miami? Could you imagine realizing that your building, because of a new law, has to be completely retrofit, and you have individually, a $50,000 or $75,000 bill that you have to pay in 1 year because the whole building has to be retrofit?
It's crazy.
It's interesting because as both designer and builder, remodeler, what are clients asking you for now in the forms of safety, security, maybe even as it relates to storage as a response to the pandemic? What are your clients asking you for now that maybe they weren't asking you for 2 years ago, 3 years ago?
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot with kitchens. People are using a lot more, their home to cook, to stay, to entertain. So we have things like warming drawers that we haven't used as much, for clients that are entertaining. They do ask. We just removed the townhouse that I'm doing. We're doing induction stove, or washer dryer. They don't want it gas anymore. What else did I got? And I also feel like they're asking for a lot more quality materials, right? So something not disposable furniture that's quick, kind of order it right now. It's more sort of, custom made in America. What are the textiles for it? So, they do think a lot more of the long-term, their usage long-term of their places.
You are listening to my conversation with Paulina Hospod of AHA Interiors. We'll be right back. At the highest level of design, the absolute best specifying designers, architects, landscape designers are all highly focused on the technology and performance of products and materials today. You have to, because the products you specify for your projects have to perform and they have to last. That's one of the reasons why I am so proud to be working with TimberTech. Their focus on the technical renaissance of synthetic decking is literally changing the conversation about innovation and performance. It pulls focus on 3 priorities homeowners have and expect from the products their designers and architects specify for their luxury projects. 1, aesthetics must match the overall design and fit visually. 2, durability and maintenance. I've told you about my board flipping stories from my own wood decks. Clients not only want beauty, but they want ease of use, and they want it to last for decades. 3, sustainably made. Clients are more conscious of the environment now, and they want the same of their materials. TimberTech hits each one of these elements with a product that not only meets expectations, they exceed them. TimberTech makes a synthetic decking that looks just like wood, color and embossed wood grain for a natural appearance. Their composite decking is technologically superior, as it has been created to last for decades, and it's manufactured with up to 85% recycled material. Their advanced PVC, vintage, and landmark collections have a Class A flame spread rating, making these products an amazing choice for wildfire-prone areas. which unfortunately continues to grow on the risk map. Check the show notes for more information about this and to find the nearest showroom or lumberyard where you can find TimberTech, or you can check them out directly, timbertech.com. The most important word in the design industry today is service. Product, incredibly important. Price, important. Selection, incredibly important. But stellar service is the premier idea that can make all the difference in the success of any project. This is how design professionals like you demand great service for your projects. And you get your favorite brands in one place with expert, knowledgeable, and non-commissioned professionals to help you specify the right product for each of your projects and get the best price. Non-commissioned, that is incredibly important. And at Pacific Sales Kitchen and Home, a Best Buy company, that means their only incentive is your satisfaction. Pacific Sales Kitchen and Home, a Best Buy company, has just that with over 60 years of service in Southern California. Pacific Sales is your destination for exploration, advice, inspiration, all the best brands, great prices, the best in the industry when it comes to service, and you know it's reliable. You know that you are going to get predictable results, reliable results every time. And now you have the Pacific Sales Kitchen and Home team to help you with their Pro Rewards program, which is a trade program unlike any you've ever experienced before. Earn 3% in Best Buy e-gift cards or 2.5% in a reward check for every qualified and delivered sale, in addition to special trade pricing, exclusive offers, access to exclusive special events, and so much more that I can't even begin to try and list it all here. And here's the cherry on top. Access to exclusive builder trade incentives from top brands and the stellar service you deserve from a company that has been serving the industry for over 60 years. Now, terms and conditions apply to the Pro Rewards program and builder trade incentives. So visit a Pacific Sales expert at a showroom today for full details and learn how you can unlock additional savings and benefits. Don't miss out on the opportunity to work with the best of the best. Visit Pacific Sales Kitchen and Home today and elevate your projects to new heights. What about weather related? Because weather is changing, our weather patterns are changing. And if you're in the city of Manhattan, you're wetter, you're drier, you're windier, you get more hurricane residue. And I call it residue because I don't think you get direct hits from hurricanes, but you certainly get the byproducts. You get the heavy winds and the byproducts. Has that changed the manner in which you build?
And their energy efficiency, I think it was always important to me. In New York City, it always bothered me in multi-story families, or if you had an apartment in a residential building, that you were limited to what windows you can use. They only had like that one manufacturer that was doing double hang windows that are just double pane, that always annoyed me. So I feel like in residential homes, single family homes that we're doing now a little bit more in Brooklyn, I try to introduce the clients to that, right? So it starts for us, if I'm gutting a home, it starts with insulation, starts with windows and how we heating the home, right? So whether it's radiant floor heating that we've done in the past quite a bit, which I really enjoy doing, or it's the split systems that are actually warming the air. I feel like a little bit more energy efficient than regular central systems. They can also remove moisture from the air. So I think those three items are really important, always been important. So I don't know if the clients asking us, I feel like we as contractors should, educate them a little bit more, right? Because they hear something from one friend, from another friend, but they really don't know. So, those things have always been important to us, or to me. We actually just did that townhouse that we're doing. I've ordered windows from Poland because they were probably a third of the cost, and we have a triple pane, beautiful windows. So we test out things all the time.
Well, and it's interesting. I feel like you, as a specifier, you have to be more nimble these days. And especially because, we talk about tariffs, haven't hit yet, but by the time this airs, who knows, they may have, they They may. Um,
Exactly.
and but what I find so fascinating about that is it just adds new responsibilities to what you do as the work. It's not just building, designing, remodeling, reveal anymore. You
It,
have so much more that you have to do
it's
that's
always
required.
something. I mean, years ago, I had a kitchen that I've never used concrete tile, right? And she really insisted on like concrete tile, and I wasn't sure. I've never, used it before. I usually do a test myself too. I take it, whether I can scratch it, I can stain it and stuff, and it was not passing my test. But she's like, I have to have this. I have to have this. Turns out years later, she did call me back and she said, you know what, I really want to change that tile because it just doesn't work in the kitchen. It was like a country kitchen or something like that. Everything patinas, it would be different, but she wanted a pristine kitchen. Her cabinet's always clean, her counter's always clean. So it's a different story, but yeah, that's how it is, And I think from that day on, I'm very, very hard on clients, if they tell me this is what they want, this is what they really, really want, because I don't think they really, really know what they want.
Oh, you think?
Oh yeah.
That is, and that's one of the things that I think um, most people don't realize before employing the services of a designer is figure out what you want first and then go find the professional to
Yeah.
let you do that.
Yeah. At least a little bit, we can help, but at least a little bit, they should have an idea.
The cabinetry,
Hmm.
I think it's really interesting. If you're talking about your average or standard kitchen and cabinetry is going to represent 29% of the budget, and that's one thing that you have taken in-house, what percentage of your clients do go through you to build their cabinetry versus others who say, well, I want Padini, I want an Italian brand, or I want, a stainless steel cabinetry that's made somewhere else? Or what percentage of clients are actually using your built-in cabinetry or the cabinetry you build?
100%. We actually won't take a project if we're not building cabinets in-house.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's interesting. Have
Yeah,
you ever had to?
everything. So, I tell them straight from the beginning. It's like everything that we do is custom. We're going to draw it, we're going to design it, and we're going to build it. I put it in the budget early on. So everything in my estimate has already allowances for cabinets, based on, their style, their existing space, or, what they're looking for. But yeah, everything is built. I can purchase or build doors, but if it comes to kitchen cabinet, we always build them, and closets, we always build them as well. Other things I'm open to, but this is non-negotiable in right now.
Do you do custom case goods as well?
Yes, everything. From doors to even custom moldings we've done, but now we can purchase so many things that you don't necessarily have to do that. But I like to do closets as well. What else we do? Everything you can think of.
I would imagine that that has seriously uncomplicated your firm.
It did. It did. Having everything in-house uncomplicated a lot of things. I mean, like I said, in the beginning, we were just a cabinetry shop. Then we were testing out, do we subcontract tile work, right? It was not to our standards. So we, make sure that we find somebody. Actually, my dad is, a tile installer as well. So he supervises the guys, for what they're doing, or if we need to train somebody. But having all of that in-house is just so much easier. Men builders, I'm sorry, remodels are also very hard to deal with, sometimes as a woman, and in the beginning, I had to fight hard with them to say, hey, I actually know what I'm talking about from time to time. So and that's another thing. You have them in-house, you're their boss. It's a little bit easier than when they're your subcontractor.
Well, it's interesting, especially when you think about it. There's this dichotomy. Um, on one side, you want to be as lean and streamlined as you possibly can. On the other side, by building out some of your internal firm architecture and infrastructure, you can be way more efficient.
Yes. and cost effective as well. You know, a lot of times she's like, oh, I don't want to do custom cabinets because it's going to be so expensive. Like, imagine, I'm doing interior design for you, I'm doing cabinets for you, we're doing construction, we're doing management, we pretty much have the entire thing. I'm able to give you a better price, right, than anybody else. You know, I've seen kitchens that are a lot more expensive than the kitchens that we're installing, and we're supplying local labor, right? We're using materials that, can be sustainable. We're reusing materials. So I think there's a lot of benefits to that people don't realize, that going to a local GC that has a millworking shop, or going to a cabinet maker can save them money and have something more interesting than when they're purchasing, off the shelf.
As you look at the kitchens that you're designing now versus kitchens, what a kitchen looked like when you were growing up, what is a modern, I don't mean in design aesthetic, I just mean a contemporary kitchen. What does it have to have today? What's the difference when you are organizing a build and you're organizing how the kitchen's going to work? Yes, you're looking at the clients to see how they live, but do you still work on a triangle? Do you work on zones? How do you get to, because look, like you had said, most clients don't really know what they want. They don't. And they'll look at social media and find, Jennifer Garner's kitchen in AD and say, that's what I want. It's like, well, unless you got $1.5 million for the budget just for the kitchen, you're not getting that. How do you parse that? How do you edit client expectations with reality?
Well, the fact that we build it in-house helps us a lot, because it can be also very creative, right? We can look at different materials, years and back, when people are still doing shaker, white shaker, shaker, white shaker, I was already introducing the clients to a skinny shaker and to wood cabinets, because I know they're just so much more durable. We had a client that he was on, goodness, Orange is the New Orange. I don't know. He was on that show, but
Orange is the New Black.
yes, exactly. He was only on like 1 or 2 seasons, but when I met him, I had no idea, and I was watching that show at the time. So later on, he and his wife wanted, I think it was black and white cabinets. So they wanted white shaker for the upper cabinets and lower black painted, right? And I explained to them, it's like, there's other things that we can do. Let's not do black painted because you're gonna be, easily scratch it. You can nick it and you can see it right away. Why don't we take walnuts, which are darker wood, and let's stain it, right? So then if you hit your cabinet, it's gonna look patina, like a natural material as opposed to painted material. So I feel like we always were introducing clients to new materials, and we always like to use wood as well, because it's so durable, it's so beautiful, there's grain to it, right? And like, I never really liked painting cabinets. So maybe I got off the subject a little bit, but we would go to lumber yards, and there was like there was this wood that we used. It was olive wood we've used in the past. We've used tinio, which is I think apple wood from pear wood. We've used so many different veneers and solid woods that it just always was fun. So I don't think I follow the trends, or like I try not to be as trendy as possible. I like kitchens to last. I like them to be timeless, and use natural materials like that. Woods, brasses, marbles, things that age with you. So that's sort of always been on my palette.
It seems like an odd question, because for the most part, whether you're in the city, when you get out of the city, not so much, but when you're in the city, exterior space is severely limited on a residential standpoint. Do you find yourself doing exteriors as well?
Not a whole lot. If we're doing townhouses, I'm doing a townhouse in Brooklyn right now that we are doing the exterior. We're adding a deck, a stair, paving, but it's a small yard, so not a whole lot of that we actually get to do. And we do a lot of apartments as well. So, very limited. Sometimes they have a balcony, that's maybe, chair, tables, and that's it.
Do you plan on staying in the 5 boroughs, or do you plan on expanding?
No, we want to stay here. I don't want to be as, not that I want to be, like I like to handle every single project, or I like to be involved with every single project. I don't want to, not know something about a project. And I think it's enough for us, having 5 projects running at the same time and just staying here. It's amazing. I mean, every time we go to, like, when we went to Arizona, we were like, oh, we have to move to Scottsdale. It's so beautiful here, right? Outdoor spaces and all that. When we went to California, it's like, oh, we're gonna move to California, So there's like dreams out there. But I think we're gonna be here. New York City is. I like New York City. There's nothing. I really like New York City, and that's it.
I like New York City too, but it's interesting because it's not the same New York City that I once visited that I first visited when I was 18.
Yeah.
And I think that that's something that, a city like New York City changes so rapidly that, I'm here in Tulsa. And while I grew up in LA, I've only been in Tulsa for like 3 years. Not much changes
No.
here. It really, not much changes. It, it doesn't change fast, but in a city like New York, it changes so fast. And I'm curious too, not just how to keep up with technology, but how to keep up with the environment. And I don't just mean temperature, but I'll give you an example.
Mm-hmm.
When New York legalized residential marijuana use,
Mm-hmm.
and I remember the first time coming back to the city, and it was like everything here smells skunky.
Yeah,
Like
it did.
everything smells like weed. You cannot get away from it. But at the same time, you have people in apartments, in condos, in townhouses, and brownstones. It's a live, work, play. It's an island. It's a community. So now you have to pay attention to more of the air purification than maybe you did before. How do how do you think about that? How do you think about those kinds of changes and how those types of changes affect your business? Maybe it's not dissimilar from how politically, tariffs now are on the table, or socially, people in times like this kind of get smaller again, and you nest a bit more. How do you think about the changes? I feel like you have to be somewhat of a prognosticator. You have to look into the future to design for today.
When it comes to design and when it comes to our business, this is more of a question. So when it comes to our business, we've been always sort of hybrid, right? We started with cabinetry, transformed into doing in-house design, fabricating it for our own clients, and doing construction. And I also wanted to make sure that we have enough things that, let's say, sometimes our cabinets were a little bit slower. We were doing the construction part of it, right? Or I have 2 clients that I've only did design for like 2 years ago, where we're a little slower. And I had a client that came and she's like, hey, I have a contractor from the building. We have to use him. Can you just do interior design and project management for us? And I did that. So as a firm, as a business, I think we have enough things that, let's say, cabinets are not doing as well. We have construction, right? If we don't need as big of a space for cabinetry, maybe we downsize and so on. And then when it comes to clients changes, I think we just have to listen to them and see like what's coming at us. I speak to from 10 clients or 20 clients that I speak to as an initial consultation, we sign maybe 1 or 2 clients, right? So, but also, I like to send them an email back, ask them, what didn't work for you? Like, who did you go with? It's always a conversation. Like, I don't get upset if somebody doesn't choose us. So just, I think being current with us, going on the shows, talking to other designers, going to the interior design conference, talking to other designers, what the cities are doing. I think it's just, speaking, networking, and just, being current, right? Not close yourself in that tiny little bubble of your own. So, yeah, hopefully that answered the question. I can go off
No,
something quickly.
it did. And then the other part of that I'm so curious about is especially where you work and how you work and how you build and how you design, is you're working for the most part, on average, in smaller spaces.
Mhm.
So I have always felt that designing smaller spaces is more magical than big spaces. Big spaces, big budgets, you can do pretty much anything,
Yeah.
right? Small spaces, big budgets, you still can't do everything because you're limited by the space. There's just, it requires a greater level of skill. I just think it does. Because the majority of the spaces you have to work in are smaller, how does that change the way that you approach it?
I I like to customize a lot. So the way I approach it is really speak with a client, right? Like if we have a kitchen that we're doing with them, that client, when we're designing, knows where every single drawer is, what goes into that drawer. Do we have a corner cabinet? Do we have one pantry? Do we sacrifice that tall pantry for, counter space? Like it's a really huge conversation when it comes to these items. Because even if we get a project that I would call big, we have a townhouse right now, they have 3 floors, they narrow floors. They have an apartment for their parents that they're moving downstairs, and it's still every single tiny little inch has to be accounted for. So I think it's just working with a client very intensely. Like, I don't just say, okay, this is where the sofa is gonna go, and this is what I like. Can we, carve out a space in the bathroom right now that's adjoining to the bedroom? I actually stole a little bit of a closet from there to give them a linen closet. And also the part that we draw it out, we can build it, we can build almost anything. I think that makes it easier for us.
I get that. One of the things that I absolutely love to do, it's one of my favorite things to do, is to go through the portfolios of the person that I'm speaking with. And today is no exception. For those who are listening, per usual, go to the show notes, click on the link to AHA Interiors. And the first one I wanted to ask you about is the Jackson Heights townhouse. There's a couple of things that, it's funny because you can't really feel what it's like to be in each of these spaces by looking at it on the internet, right? But if you've done this long enough, like I have, you can kind of look at some things and piece some things together. This particular project, there's so much I want to ask you about because it's small and it's narrow, and you managed to use the space that you have in so many unique ways. You've got uppers, you've got open shelving, you've got lowers, you've got kind of what appears to be a walk around into a quasi-open kitchen, because obviously that's the footprint that you were given, and it doesn't look like you could have done much to change it. But you made the most of what you have. You actually wrapped around the seating. So if I'm looking at this, you've got 10 plus seated in a very, very small space. And I think it's great. One of the other things that I noticed too is it's kind of what you were talking about before with the dark lowers and the light uppers.
That's the project.
Is that the one?
Yeah, it's very, could have picked it better.
I love it. I love it. Tell me about this. Tell me how it all came together in a relatively small, 3,000 square feet. It's not tiny, but obviously because of the footprint, and it's a 1920s build. So you have to be respectful of what you have. I just love this project. Tell me how this one all came together.
Let me see. So yeah, in this specific project, we did want to keep a lot of details. So like the windows, the trim work, the flooring all stayed the same. Where you see the refrigerator and the pass-through, that's where you sort of go out to the front of the house and into the living room. That was closed off, so we've opened that up. But there's also a staircase going down to their sort of family room and an additional bathroom in the basement. But yeah, the space was tiny, and behind the sink, that wall, that sort of half wall, halfway, the wall that the peninsula wraps around, we actually have plumbing in there. So the plumbing that's for the kitchen, and also the plumbing that's the bathroom, the primary on top of them. So if we wanted to get rid of that wall, it would be, quite a bit of money to spend. So we're trying to figure out, how to do it nicely. And I wanted to, say, let's remove the wall as much as we can. And that's what we did, open up the kitchen into the dining room, but not fully open it. And I think the space between the cabinets a little bit more than it shows on the photo. I think we have like 40 inches there, which is not bad. We changed that door to the back to match sort of cabinets to make it a sort of a darker stain. What else? I wanted to be also very classy, right? So that was the walnut cabinet on the bottom, subway tile square on the face, like nothing extravagant. It's oak, walnut, existing flooring, and that's it. But it was a tough layout, to make sure that everything is how they like. We had to move the oven so it's not in that tight space, right? I'm not opening the oven in front of my sink. So we moved the oven, and the microwave is actually next to the refrigerator, which I think worked out really well. And I like that island, so it's actually really comfortable space.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is it looks very comfortable. And as I'm looking at this too, some of the other things that you did in a small space, which I just think is magical, your lighting plan definitely shows. So question for you, did you build the floating shelves?
Yes, we did.
So you put the lighting.
There's an LED strip under that lower shelf.
But what's interesting too is it's not just an LED strip. It looks recessed
Yeah.
and it goes all the way around,
Mm-hmm.
which I just
That's
think
how
is
we always do it. I like to put it in a channel. So it's actually milk channel that has that enclosed. So you actually have to remove the lens to get into the light itself.
that looks so clean. And here's what I love. Here's what I love about it. And I think this is a detail that often goes unnoticed, which maybe that's a good thing, but all I can equate it to is, so last night here in Tulsa, we got this nice dusting of snow,
Oh,
right?
wow.
So just a little white dusting of snow that covered everything. So now it's 10, 11, 12 o'clock at night, where normally you'd look outside, you wouldn't see anything. But you have this white dusting of snow, and it just bounces the light of the moon,
Everything is lighter.
and everything's lit up. So when you do this, specifically over a white countertop, but it doesn't have to be white, it could be any reflective material per se. It would be in variation, but or degrees rather. But the way that this looks, you get that same effect. So even if it's not daylight, when you have those LEDs on, you're getting a significant amount of light in a meaningful way without having a fixture, without having another hanging chandelier or more recessed. It's just, I love the way that you did that. I just think it's very clever. And I think it often goes unnoticed.
Thank you. I mean, I always pay attention to lights, right? I don't do all recessed lights. I'm actually not a huge fan of recessed lights. So even if I'm using recessed lights, it's typically the ones, there's one fixture, I think it's called Bloom, that has it's plastic, it goes into the ceiling, and it has an LED strip that actually points up, reflects the light down. So it's not a glare light or anything. So this is the only almost recessed light that I use. But everything else, I just love to play with light fixtures. I always make sure that the colors are the same. That's my biggest pet peeve. Like if I see fixtures that I have different, even 27, 100 and 3000, it just drives me insane. I see it right away. So I think lighting is so important. And I'm a huge fan of going to restaurants and eating, right? Like Soho Home and Sassini's, all those restaurants are like my favorite. And I love moody homes when I can come back home, dim the lights, do different moods, different settings. And it just, feel like I'm not even like at home, like I'm in a restaurant or I'm enjoying it. So
Two
lighting is
questions.
important.
Two questions.
Mm-hmm.
First one is, why did you not replicate the channel LED in the shelf above it?
I didn't think it was necessary. I wanted it for counter space more. I think, I felt that it's going to be over the top to light up that shelf. I wasn't sure if they're going to keep that shelf really, neat. The space under the lower one is kind of larger, so I feel like the light's gonna spread out. And I think that's why I didn't want it to do it, go over the top.
Did you also light the toe kick?
No. Mm-mm.
Okay.
Mm-mm. My business partner Albert likes to do that. We have one kitchen that's in our portfolio, that's that color black kitchen. It's has orange and green Ridgewood color black kitchen. So that one, and I think there is a photo. He did a LED light strip that changes in the kick toe. That was a surprise to the clients, which was kind of fun.
The other question I had for you is, I noticed that in two of these bathrooms, there are pedestals.
Mhm.
And I'm curious, because you build cabinetry, do you
Yeah.
go with built-in whenever you can, or is a pedestal kind of like client dictate, or do you like to just break it up every now and then?
I like to break it up now and then because in their primary we did a teal stain vanity that was fully custom made, and then on top we did the pedestal because it was just fitting in the space a little bit better. I felt like because of that tub being so built in, smaller bathroom. I wanted a pedestal, and the one downstairs that's their powder room. I needed something pretty that has like gold legs. So it's not always that we have to build the vanities. Like it really depends on the style. And this townhouse was really just bringing old details, but updating them a little bit, right? Like instead of doing 2x3 subway tile, we did 4x6 subway tile, and brought up basket weave, to the like so it looks like a base molding. So just playing those old details and kind of giving them a modern twist.
Next one I wanted to go to was, and you might laugh as to why, but St. Mark's apartment.
St. Mark's. Oh yeah,
And
okay. Red knobs?
well, what's that?
Red knobs?
Red knobs. But but one of the things that I also wanted to point out, because it's, look, we're recording this in January, and my rant for the month, which takes place every January, by the way,
Oh yeah.
is I rail on all of the trends and prognostications that come out in November, December into January for the
Colors.
year. It's horrible. And it's,
Mhm.
you see it all on anti-social media, and it's all of these things that, you know, what bothers me about it is if I'm a designer and I have a client that loves something, and then all of a sudden AD or El Decor or Homes and Gardens comes out and says, well, this is not something you're going to see next
Mhm.
year. Well, all of a sudden they're not going to like it because some magazine told them, based on nothing, no, real data, that it's not going to be. It seems stupid. It seems
Yeah.
manipulative to me, and I don't appreciate it. But
Mm-mm.
because I love what designers do, and every year in both categories, in both columns, is the white kitchen. The white kitchen is going to be big this year. The white kitchen is out this year. It's stupid. It makes no sense, because as long as you have a client that likes a white kitchen, white kitchens are always going to be in vogue,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So what I love too about St. Mark's apartment is, look, it's a white kitchen, but it's not drenched. It's not everything matchy matchy, everything being white. There is there are amazing things that creative designers can do with something as nondescript as a white kitchen. And I think this is one of them. So obviously it's 80 square feet. So you're bound by space.
Yeah.
Um, that looks like a 30-inch to me.
It's a 30-inch, yeah. Hmm.
And everything in this kitchen is just so clean. Do you approach small kitchens the same way you approach big kitchens?
The same way, exactly the same way. First, I figure out what I like for my appliances to be, if I'm using a 36, how much counter I have left. Very functional. And then I feel like I turn it into a beautiful thing, or try to at least turn it into a beautiful thing. Like this kitchen specifically has a marble slab that I sourced. It was one last piece, and it was kind of broken on the side. So I had to measure, make sure like we've used every inch of that slab, but it was just so beautiful. It was like, like an artwork. I'm like, this is going to be perfect for this kitchen that's so tiny. And, we can do something really stunning with this marble slab. And also the wood cabinets, this is a smoked veneer, smoked oak veneer. And it's just like when you touch it, it's sort of like a velvety, texture to it. So it was also something really beautiful. I always like to look for something that's a little bit different. So with that wood and that marble and those recess pools, I felt like we dressed it enough, to say, okay, small kitchen, but it could be still pretty.
Okay, now I have a choice question for you,
Mm-hmm.
because I think the manner in which projects are shot are so important too. So now I notice in this kitchen that in the styling and staging of it, when it was shot, you did not have, and I'm assuming, based on the underside of the cabinetry, the uppers anyway, it looks to me like there's, again, recessed LEDs in a channel. Why didn't you turn them on for the shoot?
I have a photo that I turned them on. I actually do my own photography. So this was shot
You
by my,
do.
yeah, I do. Yes. So all of our projects, except for the most recent ones, I've been doing them. Like I said, we didn't have the money in the beginning, so I had to learn a lot of things. QuickBooks, photography, saved a lot of money right there. But I have a photo that it's turned on and it just kind of turned everything very yellow, even no matter how I did. And there was such a glare to it that I didn't think it was as important. Like it wasn't, doing what I needed it to do. But that's why that was removed.
And I love that answer. You can go either way. I'm just curious because, sometimes, especially when it comes to photography, it's really interesting. If you would have been working with a professional photographer, it's 50-50 as to whether or not they would have even really noticed that yellowish color. And I can understand now what that might have looked like. It might have turned that marble really yellowy, and it could have looked like a yellow and white kitchen. So no, I totally get that.
It takes away the details, and there's so much detail in that stone right under, right behind that sink, the faucet.
But I think, you did a couple of things here too that I absolutely love. That spice shelf, I just think is the coolest. And it's such a small detail, but it's the details that matter.
Yeah.
Especially when you're in a small space and you have a wraparound like that. So do you always do your own photography now?
I do. In recent times, our two last projects on top of our portfolio, the one that's 4th Street Townhouse and Forest Hills Greenway, we've hired somebody. It was just becoming a lot for me, especially with the townhouse that we're working in Brooklyn on. So we've hired someone, but I still like to do it. I still have very good equipment and I'm still gonna photograph it. I feel like, I see what I want to shoot. And even if I'm working with a photographer, I don't know, I just enjoy it too, so.
Yeah. Tell me about by the elevator, that niche that you built in.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me about that. I love the way it looks. Obviously it's functional. It's right by the elevator. So when you first walk in, tell me the story behind that.
So I think they had a bench and they were tossing keys and everything on that bench. And I'm like, listen, and that's also the same wood as the kitchen. And we've had some material left. So that was a later addition because on the other side of that shelf, there's a fireplace that we just changed the stone for them. So it looks better. It was an old stone mantle or something like that. But on this side, I'm like, there is room because they built out this fireplace. I'm like, I know there's some room there. So we kind of looked around and see, how much room we have. Like we have enough room to give you shelves. And actually one of those drawers there has an outlet so they can charge their phone. So they'll put them away. They're both extremely, they work a lot. So they like to put their phones away once they're actually home. So that's actually a charging station in one of the drawers.
It's in the details, isn't it?
It is. And it's, that's right off the elevator. As you walk in, there's no other place there because you're walking in really into the living room. And, just having just those little places where you can put things and storage, very important.
Totally agree. Totally agree. And it's funny too, because I could pretty much go all day and talk about some of your kitchens. Really love your work, love what you've done with them. And this was so much fun. Paulina, thank you for doing this. Thanks for taking the time.
Oh my God, you're so fun to talk to. I mean, I was so nervous, but I think you made it so much easier. You have that huge smile too, which I love. I mean, it's like talking to my clients. I mean, most of my clients are just like you, that I can, speak with them just freely.
Oh, I love to. Thank you. Thanks, Paulina. The Design Hardware Showroom is a space where specifiers can go and find an incredible selection of high-end faucets, luxury tile, natural stone, wood floors, and bespoke hardware, and so much more. Select products are presented in a holistic manner, strategically arranged to stimulate creativity and transition your vision from the conceptual stage to a fully realized space. You will find everything you're looking for, even the products by brands you didn't know you didn't know. Surprise and delight. Am I right? All under one roof on 3rd Street in Los Angeles, just up the street from the Grove. Conveniently located, free parking available. Stop by to find inspiration, collect samples, get expert advice, and tackle everything on your specification list all in one place. Visit them online at designhardware.com, at Design Hardware and Flooring on the socials, or in the real world, 6053 West 3rd Street in Los Angeles. Thank you, Paulina. Loved our chat. Thank you to my incredible partner sponsors, Thermosol, TimberTech, Pacific Sales, and Design Hardware. Amazing companies and great friends of the design trade, so please give them an opportunity on your next project. And thank you for listening, subscribing to the show, and sharing it with your colleagues. If not already subscribing, please consider doing so that you receive every episode automatically to your feed the moment it's published. And listen, I haven't asked for a while, but I love hearing your emails, reading, thank you. And I love seeing the conversation on the socials. No matter how much I bash the socials, I still engage and I still love them. So if you have a show idea, a guest suggestion, or you just want to say hi, Convo by Design at Outlook.com. And on Instagram, reach out. Convo by Design with an X. How about that? I'd love to hear from you. Anyway, until next week, let me just thank you for sharing this time together. And until the next episode, be well, stay focused, and goodness, now that it's arrived in earnest, try to rise above the chaos. Seriously.